I'm Dr. Watkins from Financial Juneteenth, and I wanted to talk about something that I saw in the media the other day that really just broke my heart. It made me sad to read about this. There's a brother by the name of Latrell Sprewell that you might remember. If you are a fan of sports, then you definitely know who Latrell Sprewell is, was, and will be. Latrell Sprewell was a brother who played very good basketball. I followed him all the way back to his days at the University of Alabama. But the stories now are not so great. The most recent story says that, based on most accounts, Sprewell has lost the vast majority of the $100 million or so that he earned as an NBA player. He spent a lot of years in the league. He not only made a lot of money, he made a lot of bad choices, and that included just these crazy fights he'd get into. One guy he got into a fight with, and he went and pulled a gun out on him and all this other stuff, or went and said something about going to get a gun. It involved a gun, which is too much already. And then there's obviously the big incident where he choked PJ Carlesimo, back when he played, I think, for the Golden State Warriors. Now, I don't know, maybe Carlesimo was the kind of guy that needed to be choked, but at the same time, they say you can't choke your boss and still keep a job. But despite all of that, Sprewell was able to do this. He went did all that, made those mistakes, and he still kept getting one chance after another, which I think was really a testament to his amazing talent. It showed just how good he was. A lot of players really can't come back from that kind of choice, that kind of mistake, but he was able to do that several times. So he was like a cat. He had nine or 10 lives in the NBA, and so. One of the things that I observed with Sprewell in his life is that it almost seemed that he always kind of pushed the envelope a little bit. He always, pushed his luck. And eventually, if you keep pushing your luck's going to eventually run out. Sprewell was known for kind of flaunting his money. He had, boats and houses and all this other stuff. And he also, in fact, you might remember those spinning wheels. They called them Sprewells because he was known for being that first guy to really publicize these spinning rims. So he was big into what I really honestly think is a destructive aspect of a black male culture, which sports, sometimes being good at sports is a curse for black men, because sometimes if you're not careful you can be sucked into a culture that is destructive for you as well as for the people that you love. It can be a culture sometimes. I'm talking about when it gets really rampant, when it gets really bad. It can become a culture where everybody smokes weed, everybody is going and trying to have sex with every girl they can get their hands on. It's about running to the club, guns on your hip, rolling with guys that might get you into trouble. And it's also not a culture that promotes things like educational achievement, which is what sustains you in the long run. A lot of these guys, it's so unfortunate to me when you have so many young brothers that really think that because I can dribble a basketball, I don't have to learn how to read. And that's absolute nonsense, because there is an old saying that people want to keep in mind, that a fool and his money will soon part ways. So you look at Antoine Walker, for example, out of Chicago, another good guy. But I went to Kentucky with Antoine, and I got a real sense that education was not really on his mind. And so years later, Antoine runs through $100 million, and he's flat broke. And so what we have to do is really confront this culture. We have to really talk about, just some of these stereotypical perceptions, self-perceptions that some young black men absorb through media. That if I'm a baller, I'm supposed to be a certain kind of person. I'm supposed to smoke weed, sleep with a lot of women, go to the club, throw my money in the air, floss and stunt, get involved in bad situations, and just screw up my life. Because what happens is, when those chickens come home to roost, when all your decisions start to compile on you, and you're 28, 29, 30, 30, 33 years old, whatever, and your athletic career is over, and it's really bad for football players because they get the brain damage on top of that, and their careers are very short, like 3, 4 years most of the time. So you think that you have made it. You think that you're going to buy your mama a house, live happily ever after, when really you end up as a 29-year-old man with bad knees, a fifth grade reading level, maybe some brain damage, a weed addiction, a pile of STDs, and 4 or 5 babies mamas all coming and taking all your money, and a ton of debt. You're not equipped at that point to be a good husband and father for anybody. Ain't nobody going to marry you with all of that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some women might do it, because they might get caught up in the glitz and the glam. In fact, a lot of women do get stuck in that situation. Some of the most unhappy women I've met, when I wrote that book, Financial Lovemaking, some of the most unhappy women I've ever met in my life were women who married professional athletes, because and so they got what we call in economics. We call that the winner's curse, where they thought they got the prize when really they got the booby prize. They got the trap. It doesn't mean every athlete falls in this category. So don't let's not assume that this is everybody. We know that this is not everybody. I know guys like Eton Thomas, a very responsible man, made millions of dollars in the NBA, has a great family, retired early actually, has a great family, is doing wonderful work on fatherhood. He works with other guys like Dwayne Wade who support him, and Derrick Rose, and guys who really believe in shifting the culture. So those are the black men that we should really support and respect and hold up as icons or respected figures within the sports community. But at the same time, number one, we have to confront the negative dimensions of the culture, which is not always our fault. It's fed to us through media, but also we have to make sure the young men understand that sports is not everything. People always say, and Demario Solomon Simmons, who's a black attorney out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, who's a former athlete. He played for the Oklahoma Sooners, so he was a great athlete himself. He always says, that people. He talks about how people always say, well, besides sports, you have to use education as your plan B. And he said, no, education should be your plan A. Sports should be your plan B. Don't make anything your plan A that does not involve educational achievement and entrepreneurship. If you want your young black boys to grow up and become successful human beings, push those two things. Education like it's a damn religion. I'm talking about obsession with educational excellence, not just achievement. Don't I mean I know we want to sing and dance and get and throw a party because Pookie graduated from high school with a C average, and that's cool. If that's how people want to live, that's fine. But that's not how we're supposed to be. No, no, Pookie's supposed to have straight A's. Pookie's supposed to be the kid who went to college at the age of 15. That's the kind of excellence you want to aim for. You want to push your kids as far as they'll go, because the thing is, we already have this in our culture. We already push ourselves beyond, above and beyond when it comes to sports and entertainment, because that's what we've been fed. That's what we've been taught to believe about ourselves. Your job is to sing and dance for a crowd full of white people, and that's how you're supposed to make your money. But we're more than that. We're so much better than this. We're so much better than this. And one example I can give you is, I know I'm stereotyping. I don't care. Look at the Nigerian community. Look at the Nigerian community and the way they obsess over education. In most Nigerian families I know, you can't be an average student and not get your head stepped on by your parents and grandparents. They will kick you in your ass if you're not at the top of your class. I can name several people I know from Nigeria who finished college at the age of 16, who went to Ivy League schools and graduated at 19, 20 years old from college, became doctors, lawyers, professors, are running schools, are running businesses, are doing amazing things. We can learn from this. We can learn from this. So what I want to say is this: when it comes to Sprewell, it's not a matter of dogging his brother. I mean, I feel bad for him. I feel like somebody fed him a lie about who he was before he was able to make that decision for himself. I think that there are a lot of people that got rich off of him. I'm sure those Harvard-educated MBAs that were managing his money, I guarantee you that none of them are broke. Those expensive $500 an hour lawyers who were working every case that where he got into trouble, I'm sure none of them are broke. All those coaches and managers and agents and all these people, these handlers that he met along the way, none of them are broke. And what's interesting is that um, it goes back to what I was saying about a fool and his money will always part ways. What's interesting is that I'm sure, I'm absolutely positively sure that that when they looked at him and they said, okay, this guy, he's caught up in this hood culture. This guy's thinking about the women and the cars and the jewelry and the bling and the clubbing and the thugging and all that. He ain't really paying attention to the money. So we're just gonna milk this guy like a cow, and we're gonna take his money, and I'm gonna put my kids through school while he's out here stacking babies, mamas, and getting caught up in situations and all that. Again, and I'm not even really drilling into his life. I'm talking about people who get trapped into that mentality. So let's let this go. I mean, not just let it go, but let's confront it. When you see it, speak up about it. You know, when you see your son thinking he's a thug or thinking he's supposed to emulate a rapper or somebody else, like let him know, no, 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 that ain't who you are. You're a man. You're a man. You're not a court jester. A court jester is somebody who knows that his job is to simply entertain. You're supposed to be the butt of the jokes. You're supposed to be the person everybody's laughing at, or making everybody feel good. And that's what we think that we are as black people sometimes. We think we're the court jester when really we're meant to be the king and the queen. So that's all I want to say about this. I'm very sorry. My condolences to, excuse me, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Iverson, Antoine Walker, and all these guys who are working to rebuild their lives. If you want to look at models of great examples of smart money management, let's go check out Shaquille O'Neal. This guy actually makes more money now than he did as a player. Even Michael Jordan, as odd as that guy is, and we know his legacy in the black community ain't so good, but from a business standpoint, Jordan, hands down, he deserves that respect. We have to give it to him. I don't even like Jordan that much. I'm not gonna lie, but we have to give it to him as a businessman. He has set the blueprint, and if you can just sprinkle that with a little bit of community responsibility, sprinkle that with an ambition, with a hunger to build, and you've got empires being built. If we can get to the point one day where the next Floyd Mayweather would rather would think it's silly to spend 5 million on a car, but would instead spend 5 million on scholarships for students at HBCUs, then we've made progress. Because you're going to help a whole lot more people with $5 million worth of scholarships than you are with a $5 million car that is basically a bunch of money going into the hands of the same Europeans who are not employing your people in the first place. That's where we have to go as a people. That's how we have to start thinking. That's all I want to say. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. By the way, our Black Wealth Boot Camp is starting soon. If you want to learn the fundamentals of building black wealth and building business, join the Black Wealth Boot Camp. It's not free, but it doesn't cost much more than a pair of Air Jordans. But unlike a pair of Air Jordans, this is going to stay with you for life. You get to learn from me directly. We get to talk back and forth. You can ask questions. We can do all of that stuff. Check it out. Go to theblackwellthbootcamp.com. That's theblackwellthbootcamp.com. Until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Peace.